Out front tonight, strike on a Russian base. New video into out front tonight. This is of a fiery blast on a Russian base. You'll see the mass explosion there, right? Well, that ball of fire that you see there is inside the Russian-occupied city of Mariupol. This is according to Ukrainian officials. And that base where that struck is home to at least 150 Russian soldiers. Now, Mariupol has been an important staging ground for Russian forces, and the reason for that, right, is it's been occupied. It's been outside Ukraine's shooting range. It's been safe from attacks for months, but thanks to the powerful new missiles from the UK, it is now in Ukraine's crosshairs. Ukraine's military also posted a video. This is a drone. They say it only cost about $1,000. They show it taking out a Russian tank, which is valued at more than $1 million. And tonight, what could be a turning point in this war. Here we are in May 2023, and the United States finally giving the go-ahead for its allies to provide Ukraine with F-16 fighter jets. This is a big development. It is what Zelensky has been begging for repeatedly for months and months, and has had support from Democrats and Republicans on Capitol Hill. Meanwhile, in Russia, Putin now taking new and more extreme measures against Americans. A statement on Russia's Ministry of Foreign Affairs website reads, and I quote, U.S. citizens under personal sanctions, including a ban on entry into the Russian Federation. And it goes on to list 500 people subject to that, including me. The Russian government also issued a warning with this announcement, and it says, quote, not a single hostile attack against Russia will go without a strong reaction. That's why covering this war every night matters, and we will continue to do it, because something supremely important to all of us is happening in Ukraine and also inside Russia, where tonight Putin's allies are turning on their own and telling those who are critical of Putin's war to be quiet.
All of these panicking alarmists can stick it where the sun don't shine. They should calm down once and for all.
Sure, sometimes we make blunders, but who doesn't? How about we support our own and keep the criticism in your own kitchen?
We're going to have much more on that Putin crackdown in just a moment. I first want to go to Nick Robertson because he is out front live on the ground in eastern Ukraine. And Nick, what is the latest happening there?
Yeah, there are gains being made around Bakhmut, not in the town itself, but around it in the fields and open ground. The gains we're talking about here, a couple of hundred yards, a couple of football fields, but this is not fighting across clean-cut grass. This is fighting across trenches, and the Russians are falling back, but they're falling back into trenches. This is ground that's been fought over so many times. There is just trench after trench after trench. The going is tough. The going is hard. We've been to some of the villages about 20 miles from the front line. Life there is also hard and tough. 20 miles from the Bakhmut front line, a house erased from this tiny village. Its fate sealed by a random Russian rocket 3 days ago. Luckily, no one in at the time. Next door, Elena and Serhiy salvaging what they can. Also, luckily, not at home. They'd evacuated hundreds of miles away to Kyiv last year, but even there they don't feel safe. They bomb us there too, Serhiy says. The night before coming here, we didn't sleep. 6 missiles were shot down over us. Both want to come back to the village, but flinch at a bang.
But was that right?
Both say yes. Elena adding, I just hope they're not coming here. But all too often, Russian munitions do. This house on the edge of the village hit 3 weeks ago. Everything scorched and scattered in the ferocity of the explosion. And over here, a piece of the drone that blew up the house, Iranian made, fired by the Russians. A Shaheed did all that. Olena, a 52-year-old nurse, and Lisa, a 16-year-old schoolgirl, both terribly burned. Mother and daughter died days later in hospital. Natalia, a close relative, escaped through a window. I'm left alone. I buried everybody, she says. Her last memories of her in-laws cannot be unseen. I heard a thunderous explosion, then a firestorm. They were running out, windows were shattering, glass flying. Their feet were sticking to the floor because the floor was on fire. They couldn't save them, she says. What she could save were the pets. The cats come running out as she takes us back to the house.
You can see the whiskers on the cat there, it was all burned back.
She is struggling with survivor's guilt. I spoke to my relative before I buried her daughter and before she died, Natalia says. She was at the hospital. She told me, it's not your fault, it's just random. I'm just happy she forgave me, and her son forgave me, and my soul is calm. She'd love to go someplace safer, but promised her relative should look after the pets. More days, risking Russia's ugly roulette.
That's why the Ukrainians want these F-16s. That's why President Zelensky has said it's a historic moment that President Biden says he'll support a coalition of nations that will give Ukrainian fighter pilots training on the F-16s. They'll find ways to get F-16s. Several European nations, the Dutch, the Danish, the Norwegians, they all have F-16s. So it does seem that these planes will be coming to Ukraine's aid, but they're not going to make a difference in the next few days or weeks or perhaps even months. But it is what the people we were talking to in this village would like to see coming over the horizon to their rescue. Erin?
And a reminder of course, what a war is all about. Nick, thank you very much from the ground in eastern Ukraine. Out front now, Roman Badanin. He is a Russian journalist, the founder and editor-in-chief of the investigative journalism site Projekt, which has been targeted by the Russian government. He left Russia after facing the threat of a prison sentence. Julia Davis is also with me tonight, a Russian media analyst. She is the creator of the Russian Media Monitor and also a columnist for the Daily Beast, and she has been sanctioned by Russia. I appreciate both of you very much, and especially having you together. So, Roman, Putin has stepped up targeting his enemies and many people, right? I mean, there's various lists out there. You could face a prison sentence, but now I understand Putin isn't stopping there. You broke the news this week that he may have poisoned more enemies who are actually not even Roman in Russia right now, that the poisonings are outside of Russia, and you're hearing there could be more to come.
Yeah, so what we established, just to start with, we established at least 4 cases. At least 3 of them happened in Europe of the presumable poisonings or break-ins into the apartment of, let's say, prominent critics of the Putin regimes. So in their view, I mean, in view of the Kremlin, they all are legitimate targets. I really believe that it's just the beginning of a bigger story, which is unfolding right now, because it's the right moment for the Kremlin to go for the people who are ready to flee country, to flee Russia, and to leak the secrets they kept so far.
Right, so they're very worried about them. I mean, you've referred to this, I know, as some sort of an elimination list, essentially,
Yeah.
and in fact, you may be on it.
Well, it looks reasonable. It looks reasonable. Well, I mean, so we have a lot of security protocols, but we are not 100% safe traveling to Europe back and forth between the US and Europe. So it's always a challenge, it's always a threat, and of course it makes me nervous, it makes my family nervous, it makes my teammates nervous, so.
And that's the chilling effect of it. I mean, it's terrible and terrifying. And Julia, when we talk about the elimination list, obviously, that Roman's mentioning, that new sanctions list that I'm on, and the names span the gamut. They've got the former President Barack Obama now on it, late night comic Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Kimmel are also on it. What is the purpose of this for Putin? Is it specific to inside Russia, to people, the audience there?
Not only the way we're watching them, Erin, they're watching what we do as well. So ending up on this list is a recognition that our opposition to Putin's genocidal invasion of Ukraine is considered significant enough to be noted and included on that list. So high praise indeed. Of course, it's also designed for a domestic audience to make it look like they're doing something, even though it's largely symbolic. And I very much doubt that any of the people on this list were planning to travel to Russia anyway.